assumption is.
I'm explaining it, yes. I'm explaining that through their mind, I don't know what happens when you think, but something happens.
You're saying that that's happening in your brain.
I can explain what is
right.
happening.
You're saying that that's happening in your brain, right?
That's what's happening. I'm explaining what's happening. A bunch of chemical reactions. I don't know how that is happening, but I know, like, I can explain, like, what exactly is happening. Like, I can't tell you that this is why it happens. I can tell you this is how it's happening. I can say how it's happening, not this is why it's happening. I can answer the how, but not the why.
Okay, and so...
And I use that to drive myself to find out why it is, why it came to be. That's my main, like, driving force, is to figuring out questions that we don't know yet. Well, the answers that we don't know. To
and you're using those perceptions to look at the brain activity and to validate the brain activity. So that's circular reasoning, you know? You're using the perceptions to validate the perceptions, but those perceptions could be created by any random thing that you've never even heard about, you know? And you're assuming that it's produced by this thing up here, but this thing up here could be deceiving you.
Not really,
right?
Not really.
It could be
at moments. Yeah, it deceives because it fucking alters from like from person to person. But like, I justify the majority of my things off of statistics and evidence, like factual evidence.
Yeah, and you don't even know the extent of the universe, right? You don't know.
It's ever growing. It's always expanding. The universe is always expanding no matter what.
Yeah, and you're
stars right now.
You're using
and determine the space between them, and we can justify that it's always expanding.
Okay, but you're using your perceptions to see that.
That's not a perception.
You're using your eyes. I mean, you're using your consciousness to take that in, to take in that information, and you can't trust your consciousness. You can't trust your perceptions. You can't trust your
like calculus.
Because that could be an illusion. That could be an illusion produced by chemical reactions, right? It could be.
It cannot be.
It could be.
It's not an illusion.
Well, you're just assuming that your perceptions are well,
mathematics, like the basic laws of physics, is based off of mathematics. We can use that universal language to like tell everyone this is why this shit happens. This is why the universe is, you know, well, we can't tell you. This is what's happening right now.
Well, you're assuming that you can actually look at things that happen in time and space and trust that you're actually perceiving that something's happening. So like if I drop this pamphlet,
yeah,
you've always seen it fall to the ground. And so if I drop it, it's going to fall to the ground. But it's
an unexplained phenomena, in which it drives us to figure out why.
But how do you know when I drop it that it actually stayed in my hand, but your senses deceived you into thinking that it dropped to the ground? How do you know?
Math.
Like you don't like if I drop it to the ground, you might perceive it go to the ground, but you how do you know your senses didn't deceive you into thinking that it dropped into the ground when I actually just kept it in my hand?
Because we can either see it, or we can use other repetition, other events that always occur in the same manner to use it.
Right, but you're assuming that your brain gives you the correct perceptions all the time, and that you can trust those sensations over and over and over again, but you can't know that that's going to be that your brain's going to give you the correct perceptions or the correct sensations, because in the end it's this certain mass of chemical reactions, and you don't know that they're going to actually give you correct perceptions all the time.
It's not a matter of perception. It's factual.
But you don't know that, right?
Yes,
because those chemical reactions could be lying to you and producing a hallucination. Or, yeah, like, you know, like
it's just
because people do get like high on drugs and stuff, and they do hallucinate, and their brains chemical reactions seem to be giving them different perceptions than normal, you know?
Yeah, and we can obviously tell from a person who is high from a person who is like regular state, at which they are. We can compare their brain activity to the people who are just not on drugs.
Right,
we can obviously tell a huge drastic difference between the hypothalamus from someone else's hypothalamus.
Right, but you're assuming that the what you call normal state of the brain, you're assuming that that's actually giving you reality in the first place, but that in itself could be a hallucination.
It's not a hallucination, because reality is just reality. I mean, I can't tell you like the shit about reality, because I don't know much about
you don't reality. but you don't know that you don't know that your perceptions are correct. You don't know. you're assuming, you're trusting in them. You know, you're putting your faith in them. You're putting your faith. You're putting your faith in these the random movement of matter that produce your brain. That produce your brain. That produces chemical reactions, which produce a consciousness. But you're putting your blind faith in that when it could be very well deceiving you if you live in a random chance universe. And so you don't put your faith in that, man. Put your faith in the God who created all of this. God created all of this, man.
Unrealistic, though.
No, it's not. Why is it unrealistic? Do you see the complexity of life? Do you see the beauty of life?
It's super complex.
Designed by a designer, you know? Didn't just randomly come out of nothing. There's a God who created us, and you understand morality. You understand it's wrong to murder people because God made you with that knowledge. He created you with that knowledge.
So because you can't explain it, you automatically just lean back on God made with like God.
No. It's my basic presupposition. Just like your basic presupposition is that everything's matter in motion, and I can trust my random chemical reactions in my brain. My presupposition is I was created by God. I was created by God in this world.
Exactly explain. You can't explain that. I don't fucking. Okay, I don't.
We're all operating on presuppositions. We're all putting our faith in something. You're putting your faith in matter in motion.
Science, yes.
Well, you can't trust science if everything is matter in motion in a random chance universe. You can't trust that there's a regular, repeated information coming through your perceptions. You can't know that.
Perception, though. So we just know, like.
You don't know. You're trusting your perceptions. You're trusting your sensations. You're trusting in yourself, a finite being who doesn't have all knowledge. Don't trust in that. Don't trust in the one who has all knowledge.
To figure out answers that we don't know. Everyone comes together.
Right. It's a bunch of finite beings who don't have all knowledge, trying to reach the nature of reality, but they could never do it because they don't know the nature of reality, because they don't have all knowledge. They don't know everything. They need to put their faith.
There's a superior being that does.
Yes, God knows everything. He created our reality. He revealed to us our reality through the Bible.
The Bible, which can be just full of contradictions within itself.
No, it's not.
It's full of contradictions.
And the whole concept of contradiction isn't even a problem. It's like you only have a problem with contradictions if the Bible's actually true. You know, if
it's true, I want it to be true. Because if it's true, then that means then there is someone up there, right? Then
it is true.
Then I can drive myself to be a better person based off of your laws of the Bible, right?
Yes.
Like, I want it to be true, and then that's like super amazing because we have all of the answers, right? But I can't say that that's true because it's full of contradictions.
But if the Bible is not true, then contradictions don't even matter. You know, like
how does it not matter?
You're saying that contradictions are bad.
Contradictions are bad.
But why are contradictions bad? You know, like if God didn't create reality where we can make sense of reality, where we can identify contradictions, then there's no reason to even point out contradictions, because like you're saying this is contradictory, but at the same time you're using a brain that could be deceiving you to say that's contradictory.
Not really, because
you can't know it.
I can't pull up. I'm a little rusty on the Bible, but like I can research a bunch of stuff within the Bible that contradicts itself.
No, you may think that. No, but there's
I know for
no people think there are contradictions in the Bible, but if you do further research and study into what, like, the context, who wrote it, when they wrote it, there's you need to make sense of a piece of writing according to the time it was written, according to who wrote it, according to social norms of the time. This was written thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago, and so
hundreds of thousands of years ago, and the world is 6.5 billion years old.
So like times were different than they are now. We interpret things according to our cultural norms, but our cultural norms are not the same cultural norms that were back when they were writing the Bible. There are things that may look like a contradiction, but when you do further study, it doesn't have to be a contradiction. There's actually a way to harmonize things that actually look like contradictions at first in the Bible.
It's just cherry picking.
God says that he's all loving and all forgiving, correct?
No, actually Psalms says that God hates wicked and violent people.
Well, God's supposed to be this being that wants us all to be perfect, then why would he send people to hell?
Why would he send people to hell?
Well, punishment and shit like that.
Well,
but why should you be punished if you believe slightly different? What about babies that die? Since they don't have they can't comprehend a religion, do they go to hell?
Well, you're not saved based on your comprehension. You're actually saved by God's Spirit coming and living inside of you,
so
and changing.
Live inside of all of us, even if
he chooses who to do that to. It's being born again. Jesus called it being born again. He said, unless you're born again, you can't see the kingdom of heaven. Yep, so you need to be possessed by the Holy Spirit of God. That's what's happened to me. So that can happen to babies. That can happen to embryos, you know, and God can save them.
So why can't it happen to someone who doesn't believe in God?
Because they're actually separated from God. The Bible describes it as being dead in sin. They actually can't come to God on their own. They can't please God. They need God to intervene and come and live inside of them and change their hearts.
I've been attending a church for practically my entire life.
Yeah.
So like, and I mean, there are some great concepts within the Christian faith, right? So like basic morality and stuff like that. Like, oh, it's bad because, you know, we shouldn't kill people. Like, there are certain topics that like not even like Christian people like need to go. Like, if you're not of a particular religion faith, you can still go to church and like they still have some like really good concepts about just general stuff. Like,
well,
it's really good.
That's your arbitrary opinion again, right? Because there's no sense of right or wrong in your worldview. There's no way to know that this is good and that's bad. You know, it's just what you decide. It's just what your chemical reactions in your brain decide are something that you like.
Like what everyone decides. I'm not saying that, oh, this is bad because I say it's bad. This is bad because the majority of the population on this planet says it's bad.
So you're basically judging morality based on a ton of different brains have similar chemical reactions, and so that's what defines what's good. But that doesn't make sense because there was a time in this country where the majority of people,
slavery was,
right,
was fucking bad.
People thought slavery was good though. Probably a majority of people thought slavery was good. Did that make slavery good? No. So morality isn't based on does everybody do the majority of people like this.
Like we figured out, oh shit, that's bad, so we should stop. And then like
okay, so their opinions changed. You know, there's no objective standard in your worldview to be like, oh, they got closer to the objective standard. You're just saying, oh, they just arbitrarily changed their opinions.
Yeah, and there's specific things in your Bible that like completely are so inhumane, like punishments.
Well, you're just judging. I mean, who are you to judge God's word? You're a finite being.
Judge mine?
Well, I'm saying God creates reality. He gives us the law. So he's the definition of good. You know, anything he does is automatically good. He's the standard for good.
So killing people who are not
I don't
in
think
your Christian faith is good.
No. God doesn't command us to kill unbelievers, but he did tell the nation of Israel to go into certain lands and to kill a lot of those pagan people who were in rebellion against God, who deserved punishment from God. He actually used Israel to punish those nations.
Say that they deserved it?
Well, the Bible tells us that the wages of sin is death, and we're guilty of sin. You know, we've no. I'm not saying. I'm saying if God gives you a specific revelation, like in the Bible, that you specifically are to go wipe out an entire nation of people, then yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. But he's not given us that revelation. He gave that to the people of Israel at that certain time, in that certain place. But that's not given to us. Like, we're not supposed to just go into pagan nations and wipe everybody out. Jesus Christ commanded, go into all the world and make disciples of all the nations, teaching them everything I've commanded of you. We're out here making disciples. We're out here talking to people, trying to reach the lost, trying to spread the light. We're disciples of Jesus, you know, we're followers of Jesus. So I
respect that, because you know that's your duty according to the Bible. You know, you're doing your part, but
yeah,
I'm not slipping. That's not me. Because like 18 years in the Christian faith, there's been so many questions that pastors and brothers and sisters that could not answer some of my questions, or they felt like uncomfortable to do so. So
yeah.
I've grown up to just say that, you know what, I'm gonna figure out a lot of stuff on my own, and like with other people, to figure out the questions that I have and the answers that I need in order for me to make a good, justified judgment on whether I should lean to the religious side or lean to the realistic, not realistic, like the factual, evidence-based.
Well, I'm saying it's not factual and evidence-based because really your brain could be lying to you. Remember, your chemical reactions could be lying to you.
Yeah, the explanation, yes, the explanation is not lying to me. It's not, I'm not telling you just because. I'm not saying that the reason I have consciousness right now is because of the chemical reactions. I'm saying that I can explain what's happening in your mind, which is chemical reactions, but I can't explain what consciousness actually is.
Well, I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
You don't know that those chemical reactions are even happening because your senses could be lying to you. It could all be an illusion, and you don't know what the real nature of reality is. You know, you're just trusting in that experience that you're having. You're trusting this experience when you don't know that experience actually reflects reality. Because when people are dreaming and when they're hallucinating, they're having an experience. But if they trust that that's true, they're wrong. You know, people have dreams and they think they're doing all this stuff and they're just sleeping in their bed.
No, you know, I understand.
It's not real. Yeah. So.
That was messed
That's
up.
stupid. Okay. But I mean, I don't know. Like my standpoint, I'm still firm where I stand right now. And I appreciate you trying to come over here and tell me.
You want to use evidence and stuff, but I'm saying you can only make sense of evidence and facts in the Christian worldview, in which God created us as beings who can take in information about the world He created and be productive in the world and obey His commands and glorify Him. You know, that's how He makes the scientific process possible. He makes evidence possible.
I mean,
that's like, don't.
That's fine. You do you.
You know, it all comes down to presuppositions. It all comes down to faith. Mm-hmm. You're putting your faith in yourself. But God, that's the thing that's going to damn you to hell. You know, putting your faith in yourself will destroy you.
And if at one
trusting
moment,
God.
If at one moment I do meet my Creator on I can't remember what, you die and then you go to the judgment, right? And then He
the Bible says, for it is appointed to man once to die and then comes judgment.
Yeah, for that. Yeah, I wanted to be, correct. Okay,
yeah.
So He deems you to hell or He accepts you, right?
Yeah.
So at that moment, then I'm gonna ask Him, what was the purpose of you hiding yourself, and which God are you?
He didn't hide Himself though. He gave you the Bible. I'm coming to you right now with it's not full of contradictions.
Yes, it is.
No, man.